Welcome to Black Health Matters. I'm Darryl Armistead, your host. This episode is a Zoom recording of Howard University group session led by Dr. Clive Callender.
13,000 people. And it emphasizes the importance of the flu shot. So those of you like me who've not gotten it yet, it's probably around the time this month, and certainly early end of this month and the early part of November is time to definitely get the flu shot. Interestingly enough, as we're approaching Halloween and COVID hospitalization rates and deaths are decreasing, that Fauci is encouraging trick-or-treating because he says it's safer now to do it because the rates are dropping. Remember last year, it was advised against it, but this year he's advising to restart the trick-or-treating again.
Well, also, Doc, before, I guess, a year ago, we were still real paranoid about surfaces, and more so than the aerosolized transmissions. So, we used to wear plastic gloves when you go in the grocery store. At least I did.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, it's safe. So many of you have grandchildren, and so trick-or-treating is again feasible and not in bad taste, and it's healthy for them to do again.
So you're gonna have to wear the mask under the mask.
Well, most of trick-or-treating is outdoors. So if you're vaccinated, you don't need to do that. So now that doesn't mean you don't have to worry about poison candy, but it means you don't have to worry about coronavirus.
Dr. Callender?
Yes.
This week there were a couple of articles in the Post, and I know you read them. One about was doctors retiring and leaving us baby boomers doctorless or having to find new younger doctors and get put on their waiting lists. You did read about that, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, well, yeah, it's timely.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on it? I mean, that's something that we're ever aware of, especially in our community when many of the minority doctors are retiring and going away, and the quest for somebody to replace them becomes difficult.
Yeah. Is there a shortage of doctors, or why are there such long waiting lists?
Oh, there's always been a shortage of doctors. It's just getting worse now, especially with the conditions in which the practice of medicine is causing so much paperwork and everything. So a lot of doctors have retired and changed practices. And so this is something that is getting worse, I guess you could say.
There was an interesting article in the October 12th Washington Post, a Black doctor who helped decode Alzheimer's as a neglected figure.
Yeah, I thought that was, yeah. How many people have ever heard of that doctor?
Never
Dr.
heard
Fuller.
of him. Nope.
Yeah, that's a great article on Solomon Carter Fuller.
Yeah.
He's a neurologist and psychiatrist, Black doctor, who nobody even probably has heard of before. And it was interesting because he's born in Liberia, and he enrolled at a medical school that doesn't even exist anymore. And then he got his degree from Boston in 1897. And he did a lot of research, and then he actually developed the disease and made known what was going on into what's later known as Alzheimer's. And it's unusual for them to really talk about the history-making efforts of our Black doctors, especially the psychiatrists. And you're right, it's a great article. It talks about his contribution.
And
Uh,
then did you see the article about racism impacts Black women's brains like trauma?
Say that again.
Racism impacts Black women's brains like
Oh,
trauma.
yes. A good article on that talks about mommy brain is real for especially for us. So, and I think that it's nice to see that a lot of the articles are pointing in directions that in the past was not traditional, and recognizing some issues that are thought of as irrelevant and not timely, but it shows that it's a real entity.
Then there was another article, and I think Darryl would be interested, how McDonald's and other franchises are going into plant-based vegan foods. Like McDonald's will have a plant-based burger, and
Right,
etc.
right.
And that's
It's healthy. The question is how many people will take advantage of it? That's the question, because McDonald's has health sections, but they go relatively unused. So
well, they said by 2030, 162 billion will be made, and it's not a trend. It's a trend that is growing faster and faster, and a lot of establishments are getting plant-based foods, because I see it more in the grocery stores than I've ever had before.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's great. Great news.
Not into it yet, but I think it's becoming more and more popular. People are becoming more aware. I know I have a lot of friends who do the plant-based. I haven't, but that doesn't mean I won't. Sometimes it takes a while for things to grow on you. And I think McDonald's is a good place to start it.
That's a punt.
2030 is a long way off.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, and then the last one, which I know wouldn't bother anybody, but the younger generation, they have menstrual cups. And I've never heard of that until I read it in the newspaper. And to help with the environmental control, women insert it, and instead of using tampons or pads, they would use the menstrual cups. And it's in this week's Washington Post, which is something. And I know I'm in a group to help girls and women in third countries where they don't have it, and they make their own pads. We make the pads and send them over to India, Africa, and other countries where women do not have the access. And a lot of times that in the third countries, they have to stay at home during their time of the month. And I was just wondering, why don't we just ship this? These last for about 10 years. And the menstrual pads that we make and that the ladies can wash out, they only last about 4 or 5 years. So that was another article that I thought, but I don't hear any public, advertisements or anything, but I just happened to read it in the newspaper.
Good idea. Good article. Any other thoughts as we move forward? How many have you gotten your boosters?
I got the booster, yeah.
I got mine.
Me.
Has it been okayed for Moderna? I know Pfizer.
No,
I
just
thought
Pfizer.
Moderna, it hasn't been. Yeah, I had Moderna.
Pfizer. Only Pfizer, yeah. Only
Yeah.
Pfizer.
And then they're putting for the children, they're saying now Thanksgiving. At first I thought it was going to be Halloween by the time they have it approved for children, 5 to 12.
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, they're considering it right now. And that's an article that's there that between 5 and 12, they've sent it to FDA. So
when
it's
do you think it's
likely by Thanksgiving it will be approved.
Thanksgiving.
Before Thanksgiving, probably. Yeah. Okay, John, I guess you can start our articles. This I thought was a good article that John picked out, that so many of us are having trouble hearing because of the noises that we've been exposed to, some of our own doing and some not of our own doing. And of course, as you drive and you drive, you hear all these people, young people who have all these loud noises coming through their cars. That is just interesting. And then musicians, of course, have it especially difficult because you're playing in your orchestra or band or whatever, and you're surrounded by the drums and the bass horns and all of that. So
What you say, Doc? I'm serious.
look at that. Half of those over 75 have a hard to hear. So that means some of us, including me, have hearing difficulties. And I think part of it, and then of course we know that Chris has had tinnitus for a couple of years now. So, and if you've ever had it, you realize how disabling that can be.
Yeah.
Of course, the question is loud. What is too loud? Then you think of the headphones that we use, and so this is an article that identifies 8 areas that you wouldn't think of, and target shooting is one of them. Live music events, I think, is one, especially those of you who play instruments, because you're surrounded by loud noises. Then if you go to car races and other things and football games, and now I wasn't aware of woodworking and home projects, but any of you do that, those woodworking home projects?
Yeah, like power saws.
Right. And then the lawnmowers, how about that? But most people who do that, they have earmuffs on so they don't hear it. And then motorcycle riding, oh my goodness, and boating. And then of course, to me, one of the commonest is those of us who like our music loud, who use headphones or earbuds. And I didn't know about this one about exercise classes. Any of you take exercise classes? Is the music really loud?
No.
Oh, okay, well, and they talk about how do you deal with that, and they talk about wearing earmuffs, other things. Any of you musicians do that? Wear earmuffs?
I have a story, Doc. Couple of stories, in fact. I was next to a world famous drummer for about 10 years, right next to the cymbal in my left ear. And I have fairly significant hearing loss in my left ear, especially the high frequencies they talked about, like the beginnings of sentences with the S's and T's. You know, it's hard to distinguish sometimes. But one night, and I started wearing earplugs, to protect my ears. Way too late, But one time I had a type of earplug that was narrow and had these ridges on it, right? So when you stuck it in, it would stay, and it had a little handle, you could pull it out. One night the music was so loud, I went back to my horn case and got my earbud, and plugged it in, and I made the mistake of trying to push it in a little harder, and it went into my middle ear.
Wow.
And I couldn't get it out. So the worst thing about that was that, okay, it hurt, and then it didn't block the sound. It didn't block the noise. So it was like super loud, and this thing was very painful. I had to go to the emergency room, not the emergency, but the urgent care room at Kaiser. that night after the gig. I'm talking about 3:30 in the morning.
Mm.
They had to go in with tweezers and pull it out. Very, very damaging. Now, the volume levels on stage are so loud sometimes. I managed to purchase these in-ear monitors. So instead of listening to the monitors, big speakers on the stage that blast the sound, I have a control over what's coming into my ear.
Really?
I have a dial on my hip, so if it gets too loud, I can turn it down.
Mm.
And I had an ear impression made, plastic that goes in all the way into your inner ear, and it works really well. It's kind of expensive, but my hearing is worth that, really.
Well, essentially, and they say that there's no cure for this hearing loss once you get it. And hearing aids make a difference, but once you lose it, hearing aids the only answer. So,
Dr.
Well,
Callender, there's also a connection now between hearing loss and Alzheimer's.
yeah, they say that. Looking at the data, I wondered if it was real. Yeah.
Well, I've looked at some recent data, and it seems pretty valid. The connection.
The question is, which came first, the
Right.
hearing loss or the Alzheimer's? Yeah.
Well, I read that a lot of times they said that a person had Alzheimer's when basically all they had was hearing loss, because they would get things confused and etc. And I know when I was teaching music survey, or another form of music appreciation, we had it in the textbooks to warn the youth not to listen to music that was loud over 3 decibels or up to 5. And it used to be we had on our devices that you could go from 1 to 10. But now I'm looking at the phones, they just have bars. They don't tell you what exactly. If you can remember back that far, you would see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, where you could turn the volume up, and they said 3 to 5. And they warned the youth when in the textbook that more youth under 40 or really around 30, they are beginning to experience hearing loss because of the headphones and the loudness. You know, you see some of these cars that are bouncing around the street and they're bouncing.
Yeah.
And going back to John Buchanan, one time John and I were in a gospel concert, and I won't name the church, but it was excruciating loud. But everybody was having fun and a good time. And John and I decided from now on, and we did for that concert, when it is extremely too loud and it's hurting your ears, walk out. That's the only way to save yourself in hearing, because there's a lot of gospel, a lot of Christian music, and not only rock bands and games that you're going to, but you do experience hearing loss. So the best way to protect yourself is to walk out.
I've been tested for hearing aids also. My wife has told me for several years that, I can't hear well, so I need hearing aids. But hearing aids are very expensive. We're talking about $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000.
Yeah, but John, that's a funny story where your wife tells you you have hearing loss because it could be you not listening to her.
So that's what you're doing, John Tatum.
No.
Well, I tell you something else. I don't put my my cell phone up to my ears anymore. I just always have it down, away, and on speakerphone. And I'll tell people if they call me, you're on speakerphone, But no, I don't put it up to my ear anymore.
Okay.
I've got hearing loss, but my missing frequency range is a female voice, so I don't see that as a problem.
Leave it to Darryl.
So that's why mine can't hear me. Oh, it's my pitch of my voice. But there is a scientific study that low voices, that's why children respond to male images better, male fathers, because of the frequency of their voice. High pitches which women tend to have, children and adults, they don't respond unless you have a low frequency voice.
That's right, girl.
Okay, let's go down and see what these new technology. That's interesting. Eyeglasses that turn speech into subtitles. Anybody ever seen anything like that?
No.
And that does it all. I mean, that's watching TV with subtitles, except without a screen.
Where can you get them?
I don't know.
They're being developed.
Oh, okay.
These are in various stages of development, but they're not available yet. That's amazing. What else is new?
Well, Dr. Callender, if they're saying that hearing loss is tied in with Alzheimer's, how does that affect deaf people?
How does that affect what?
Deaf people.
People who are deaf.
Oh, well then, often people who are deaf from a young age. So I don't know the association between deaf people and Alzheimer's, if there is. Good to have you back again, Kevin.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
If you go to the Metropolitan Opera, I love it because, you know, they're singing in a foreign language and you can read the subtitle, what they're singing about on the seat that's in front of you on a small screen. It is fantastic. It really helps you. One day they'll just sing it all in English where you won't need it.
Yeah,
I don't believe that.
if they could combine the subtitle glasses with Google Translator, where someone's talking to you in a foreign language and it converts it to English, that would be the bomb.
They're working on that. They're working on it.
Well, they actually have the headphones that do that in real time, that convert the foreign language to English.
Yeah.
They introduced that to us at a staff meeting for teachers, but they didn't have that many. So when you are having a conference with a parent, you're able to understand them in your language, but they didn't pass them out too much.
Yeah, the ones I went to, they had translators who would talk to you in a different language. They didn't have that advanced that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, you got to make up your mind whether you want the glasses or the headset.
Well, the glasses they haven't developed this number 2 to let you hear specifically one person in a noisy environment. That must be interesting.
You know, when I saw Hamilton, you know, rap music for a lot of people is like a foreign language.
Right,
you know?
it is.
So they had the screen on the side of the stage that had all the lyrics written out, so you could understand in real time what the actors were singing. It was excellent.
Yeah, this idea that focusing on one person when the room is so crowded and there's so much noise is something that is very desirable. I don't know when any of these things will occur. Drug therapy that regrows cells that help your hearing. Same way as salamander regrows a tail. Well, I don't know when that will be available, but
it would have to be very, very specific.
Yeah, it's very attractive. But you know, with stem cell research, regeneration of so many other things, it's something that is likely to come to pass in the next 20 years or so.
Dr. Callender, they've been studying the salamander for a very long time, trying to see if they can duplicate what the salamander duplicates.
Yeah, well, keep trying. It's an article that talks about the greatness of HEPA filters that actually work and clean out the COVID viruses. And we know that they have them in a number of locations now, including some of the airplanes and the healthcare facilities. Of course, they've had them for a while. But
You're buying them for schools too.
good, and they work well, so that and they're not as expensive as they used to be. So that's it's amazing how we've made so many advances. We've done everything except climate change, but hopefully that's coming.
I'm Dr. Callender. I was in a medical supply store, and the guy had one filter around his neck, and he was also selling the large ones. And he said it really worked, and he was trying to sell that to me. And I was looking at it, and it's a novel idea to have an air filter around your neck, and you wear it as cell phone or something around your neck to purify the air that's around you.
Yeah, it's interesting to see whether it's as effective or more or less effective than the mask. Well, this is an article. We all know that salt is as undesirable as sugar is, although most of us like sugar. But the question is, how many people actually add salt to their meals anymore? Because we know that we have FDA requires that and the foods they sell, that they tell how much sodium is there. And they have a limit for some. For example, as you see here, they want it to be no more than 3,000 milligrams a day. And actually the 2 grams salt diet is the kind of diet that renal patients have to deal with. Because salt causes water retention, and water retention is not good because it drowns you. So
Dr.
that's why you have salt substitutes.
Back in the day, they used salt as a preservative, though, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Still do.
Yeah, I still do. But and most of the salt substitutes are potassium. And of course, potassium is it's good for your blood pressure, but in too much amount, it's lethal. So you have to decide what to do about that. But it's well known that, especially for us, salt is not healthy.
I thought salt substitutes were supposed to be even more dangerous than the salt itself. Is that true?
Well, salt is not dangerous for those who need to take potassium rather than sodium, but if you want to kill somebody, you give them potassium. Potassium stops the heart from beating. So you have to use reasonable levels of potassium, because potassium is as lethal as more lethal than sodium. That's just that they use smaller amounts. Because in one way, potassium lowers the blood pressure, which is good. But in another way, if you have too much, it stops the heart from beating.
Is it bad for kidney patients?
Absolutely, yes. So you have but people who are on salt restrictions will take small amounts of potassium. But yes, potassium is that's why renal patients are advised not to have oranges or bananas, because they are rich in potassium. This is an article that is something that we deal with on a daily basis. And it's gotten to the point that some doctors refuse to treat unvaccinated patients. We have an article on that as well. How many of you have dealt with this kind of issue where you've seen health providers who do not accept unvaccinated patients? I haven't seen much of it yet, but there are stories all the time about practices that don't take care of unvaccinated patients. And
What's happening with
talk
transplants?
about the ethics of, and then there's an article we're going to show later that shows that there's some states and some hospitals where they will not transplant patients who are unvaccinated. So that's interesting. It's taking a step forward or backward. One depends upon how you look at it. But that's becoming more and more an issue. And the ethical aspect of it is what is a concern. It is well known that you have the right to accept or reject a patient. However, rejecting them because they haven't taken the vaccine is a new entity. And we haven't really had a lot of ethical discussions surrounding the right or wrongness of refusing to take care of a patient because they are not vaccinated. Any thoughts on that? Because that's a new ethical dilemma.
Well, Doc, I think this article is more focused on doctors dealing with patients who don't believe in the vaccine. And yeah, I've been dealing with one guy who's a superstar musician. Well, not a music. Well, a rapper, a DJ, who refuses to take the vaccine. So I just don't go around him, and I can't do it, and but he said, no, y'all not doing that. No, I'm not, and his rationale is illogical to me, but he believes it 100%. And so far he hasn't been sick or anything.
You seen what Kyrie Irving is doing?
Yes.
And did you read why he's doing it?
Well, he's going to lose millions of dollars in the process. That's for sure.
He says he's doing it because he feels that it's not right for people to force people to take the vaccine. So he's taking a stand for them. So he's not anti-vaccine. He's anti mandating the vaccine. And well, he'll lose his whole salary because he will not be able to play it home. So he'll have to take another profession, or else he'll have to change his position. But there are many people who have what they consider good reasons for not taking the vaccine. Many of them relate to misinformation, but
I just heard on the news yesterday, Doc, that a Catholic priest or some person high in the Catholic religion said that Catholics should be able to have a religious exemption from taking the vaccine because of, in the research to develop the vaccine, they use fetal tissue.
oh, well, I guess that's, yeah, I've heard that before, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. So, and of course, I haven't seen any Catholics who gave that as a reason.
Well, the Pope has come out and said take the vaccine, but you have splinter Catholics that are anti-vaxxers.
So does anybody know if that's true, if fetal tissue were used in the development of the vaccine?
I don't know. I've never heard that before. I mean, I'd heard it, but I never seen it validated. So
It sounds fake.
right, sounds that way, but I can't answer it one way or another, except that none of the science that I've read about shows anything about any fetal tissue.
Okay, now if you're talking about fetal tissue from my back, that's another story.
Well, no, we don't. That's the cause of the disease, not the cure, not the cure.
You know, there was a news story a couple days ago about the number of healthcare providers that have died from COVID. So I can understand the healthcare provider not wanting to provide services to someone who has not been vaccinated. I mean, there's already a shortage of healthcare providers, and they're starting to ration healthcare in a lot of places now too. So it's, you know, do you want a healthcare provider available when you get sick? I mean, that's what it comes down to me. And I think that everybody has the right to protect themselves from a public health crisis. That's just my opinion.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
You don't see Bradley Beal refuse to get vaccinated?
Well, here's the difference with Bradley Beal. He's had COVID, and so he probably has some degree of immunity. I don't know that he's been tested, but that's going to cost him a lot of money as well, because he won't be able to play either. So, but it's interesting the hard position that the Nets have taken. They're not going to deal with Kyrie Irving. I haven't heard anything said about Bradley Beal though, except that he's not desirous of being vaccinated, and that will make him unable to play in DC.
I saw that they had a lot about Facebook. Is according who your friends are on Facebook, because I haven't seen all this propaganda, what they're saying that's on Facebook.
I've seen it. I've seen some really stupid stuff that, you know, and all it takes is one stupid idea, then it explodes, you know.
Well, anyway, this is attractive for those who won't take the vaccine, that maybe they'll be able to take the COVID-19 tablet, which is they've applied for emergency use authorization. And it's again from Gilead, which is well, it's developed with Ridgeback Biotherapeutics. And the data was so good that they stopped the study early because the success was so good that 50% of the people did not come down with COVID. So they therefore stopped the study, and they decided to rapidly appeal for emergency authorization.
So Doc, if everybody's vaccinated, how can they test a drug like this? You know, if everybody's already vaccinated against COVID.
Well, you test those who are not vaccinated, and you go in populations where there's a low vaccination. If you have 100% vaccination, then it's not possible. But our country, we have what, about 70%? So 30% of 300 million is still a large number of people.
How often do you take this pill?
It doesn't say. It doesn't say. Doesn't say how often.
So you can take it one time, or you got to take it every week, or what?
It doesn't say. It doesn't say. They haven't told us the details. They just said that the tablet works and prevents COVID. They haven't gone into the details as to how many, whether you take it once a day, once a week, once a month, or once a year. So as they shared with FDA, the details will come out, but it hasn't come out yet. This is an article that is somewhat misleading in the sense that the antibodies wane, they don't completely disappear. They decrease, and some of the patients, they were undetectable at 6 months, and that meant 50% of the patients, they weren't. And there are many studies that talk about the fact that it's not only the antibody titer, but the sensitized cells, the cellular immunity that is important. So, but this is a large reason why the booster shot at 6 to 7 months is recommended, because it is clear that the titer has decreased. It's not disappeared, but it certainly has decreased.
Flu shot.
I'm sorry?
Oh, getting that booster shot 6 months after your second shot, will it take place of the flu shot?
No,
That's nothing to do with it.
no. And as a matter of fact, it's suggested that you take the flu shot within 2 weeks of getting the booster shot. Although some people have recommended getting both at the same time, but and
I just
there's
saw an article today, Doc, that said the flu shot would help with the COVID immunity.
well, I haven't seen that data yet, but it's certainly, to me, they're separate vaccines that, and it should be dealt with separately, even if you were to take both at the same time, which is possible, and it's recommended by some doctors, but most will suggest that you will have 2 weeks between the vaccines. And we talked earlier about how important it is for flu vaccine in people of color, especially children of color, because they die 3 to 4 times as often as children who are not minorities. Now, this is the article we talked about earlier that seeks emergency approval for vaccine in 5 to 12, age 5 to 12. And so that's Pfizer request. And this is expected between Halloween and Thanksgiving to have the results by that time. You know, there was in many, before the Delta variant came out, there was a lot of data that suggested that kids did not die from COVID. And that may have been true before the Delta variant came out, but with the Delta variant, it is not true. The kids die from COVID. How things, any word about what's going on with the school population and the teachers? Any changes?
Yeah, my wife works with elementary kids, and she had one classroom where they had to send the whole class home because 10 kids got COVID. 10 kids in one classroom.
10 kids out of how many in the classroom?
Well, I don't know. They sent everybody home, so I don't know if that makes a lot of difference. But in one school system in Virginia, they had hundreds of kids get it. And, you know, some schools are now going back to virtual learning because of that.
Hmm. Okay, what's going to be interesting to see how over time what the result of that is. And I think it really emphasizes the importance of having this vaccine available for people of the age from 5 to 12.
And then you have the same parents who don't want to get vaccinated are not going to let their kids get vaccinated. So there's still going to be an issue, you know, when that comes. But at least the kids who are vaccinated might be a little safer.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about that? Yeah, and this is the article we talked about that women who refuse to get vaccinated and denied transplant, and there are some centers where that is the case.
Well, Dr. Callender, it just really makes sense because if you're not going to get vaccinated and you get COVID after the transplant, you've just wasted an organ.
That's the way they look at it. Although 20% mortality rate is not, I mean, it's not 100%, it's 20%. So, but anyway, it's food for thought. And then she uses the same logic about the fetal tissue.
Fetal tissue, no, but it's okay to receive someone else's tissue.
Yeah, well, that's the position some are taking, although they haven't documented the fetal tissue at all. But the rumor of it is enough. So. Yeah, so I think this is something that's going to be across the nation going to be discussed, the ethics of it. And
Doc, what is stage 5 kidney disease?
End-stage renal disease. That's the stage where your creatinine clearance is less than 20%. And you have to be on dialysis to survive. Although some people have lowered that to 15%, but yeah. And of course, people have stressed there's no fetal tissue in this vaccine, but people make it up and they just come up with other reasons. But it's interesting if somebody says that and they tell you that they don't have it, how do you prove it?
Yeah, I heard a buddy say that Muslims are exempt from the vaccine because they use pork.
Well, there's no evidence that they use pork either. But anyway, people make up a lot of things. So.
I know, man.
That's a misinformation right there, because I know they don't eat pork.
And nobody asks what's in McDonald's or Wendy's or.
It's coming to the surface now.
Mm-hmm.
There are probably other transplant centers where she could be transplanted where they don't have that rule. So there are other transplant centers. This is an article which talks about the mandate, and there's a lot of debate about whether the mandate is good or not, because it's becoming a political argument that it shouldn't be mandated. And you have governments you have states that are anti-mandates. So that you have mandates, then you have anti-mandates. So it's become political football.
Yeah, Texas, the governor of Texas banned mandates.
Right.
And the governor of Florida actually sued one county, I think $3.5 million, because they demanded the students to wear masks and be vaccinated.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see how those cases wind up. Yeah.
Didn't the governor of Texas come down with COVID?
Yeah.
After he mandated, he came down with it.
But he got the expensive medication to treat him.
So it's
probably not available to the rest of us.
Well, it's now available.
Is it?
That was used to be the case, but it's now the Biden has purchased the Regeneron antibodies, and so it can be obtained for free now. So that issue, which was an issue before, is no longer an issue. So.
But it's such an enigma with the vaccine mandates, because I can remember, of course, this was back in the day when the earth was still cooling, but with the polio vaccine came out, there was no issue about that.
Right, no. It's a new,
all kids got the polio vaccine.
yeah, it's a new issue. Yeah, it's a new issue.
Equal rights.
If I remember correctly, we got the polio vaccine on a sugar cube, right, Doc?
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, there was no option. No.
Oh.
And that's why Biden has made it mandatory. But anyway, it's now this is something that is brand new as well. So it's, you can see that it kills more than 400,000 people a year. And it's just a disease that's unending. And so this vaccine may conceivably put an end to malaria, which would be welcome news for those people in the continent of Africa. And well, so it's going to be interesting to see how many will accept this vaccine in Africa. It's amazing how this vaccine business is becoming so widespread, and it's going to be to the point where everybody on the globe will possibly receive the COVID vaccine, one type or another. And then it's going to be next interesting to see how Africa will react to the availability of the malaria vaccine. It's one thing to have it, it's another thing to see whether the people in Africa will accept it.
Seems to me, I remember reading about a connection between sickle cell and malaria, that there's a genetic component among sub-Saharan Africans that protects them from malaria, but that genetic component also gives them a predisposition to sickle cell. You remember anything about that?
Yes, and also there's a disease called sleeping sickness, which the genetics that protect against sleeping sickness may be the reason why African Americans have more end-stage renal disease, kidney disease than any other ethnic group. Because just as you say, the downstream effects of one versus another aren't always known, but there is thought that the protection against malaria may be one of the reasons why sickle cell disease has developed. They are now developing treatments for, of course, bone marrow transplantation is one treatment, but there's another treatment that's been developed as well that will change the genetic engineering of the new in 2020, the Nobel Prize gene editing tool will be able to edit out the gene for sickle cell disease. But that association that you talk about is there. Now, this is an article I thought was interesting, kind of challenging, but interesting nonetheless. Why Americans still wearing cloth masks? And the article talks about the fact that we wore cloth masks because N95s were in short supply and surgical masks were in short supply. And so for that reason, cloth masks were thought to be a way of preventing COVID, although it wasn't the ideal way, but yet a way of doing it. So what they're asking is, now that we have masks around, why are we still wearing cloth masks? Because anybody who wants to surgical mask can have one. But the answer is what?
They're cute. They can match your outfit.
And they are better than nothing.
And sometimes they're easier to breathe in. Or no, maybe those paper cloths are better to breathe in. But you know, a lady likes one to match her outfit.
But anyway, this is an interesting statement here that a surgical mask that been washed 10 times is more effective than a cloth one. But cloth mask, $9, surgical mask up to 63 cents. Well, anyway, people are still using it. I would say it's almost like a third of the people wear cloth masks in preference to the surgical masks or N95 masks.
Dr. Callender, my stepson is a very heavy set man, and he's having problems with finding KN95 mask in a size extra large. So he's been forced to almost use only the fabric mask because he can't find those in extra large sizes.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a good reason.
You can also always double mask, you know, get a smaller surgical mask and put a cloth mask over top of that.
Yes.
But, you know, I do a lot of walking, and it's a new form of pollution. People are throwing these paper masks out the windows and they're on the sidewalk. It's a new form of pollution.
Yeah.
Dr. Callender,
Yeah.
which do you find more effective, the cloth mask or the mask where they say they're 3-ply?
What was the other option?
A 3-ply mask. I have a mask. Normally I wear a mask that has a cloth lining. And then I have another one that's some sort of a paper lining, but it says 3-layer mask. So is cloth more effective?
Well, it appears that cloth masks are the least effective.
I have a sister, and she'll put on her mask, and she's been doing cloth, but she can't breathe. And then she sweats profusely. So I found this other one that's 3-ply, but it doesn't have that cloth feel. And she feels more comfortable with it, but I don't know if that 3-layer of whatever that cloth is more efficient than the cotton cloth type mask.
I don't know the answer to that question. I just know that the cloth mask is the least efficient of the masks. Now, of course, this is another issue. Will parents get their younger kids vaccinated? And this is a poll. And it looks like there's a lot of difference. Look at the no's, about the same as the yeses, and the maybes bridge. So it's going to be interesting to see. What are your thoughts? You can see that the vaccinated patients parents are more likely to say yes, whereas the unvaccinated, only 10% said yes. So, but that makes sense because they didn't get vaccinated themselves. So. What are your thoughts about it?
It's way too political, Doc. Way too.
Well, we know that the preponderance of people who are hospitalized and are dying, adults, are unvaccinated. That data is clear.
Clear, crystal clear.
Yeah, so I would think that could be, an inference could be made from that about children. So I would opt to have my children, grandchildren, young children vaccinated. That's my thought. My older grandchildren, the 12 and older, are vaccinated.
Any other thoughts about this?
Yeah, I would have mine, except mine are getting vaccinated, but realistically, it doesn't matter what the grandparents say. We're not like in China or any place. We can say all we want to, but this is America, and our children do not obey us precisely. Some children do, but once they're over 21 and out of your house, they listen to you, but what you say doesn't have that much bearing sometimes.
Reality is tough, isn't it?
If
In
you
my
want
view,
to,
is what on the graph, I think if you're already vaccinated, you believe in it and you'll want your grandchildren to be vaccinated. If you don't believe in it, as the other graph indicated, then you'll say no. You're going to follow what your beliefs are. So, yeah, I think the majority that are vaccinated, they would want the children to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
What I hear an awful lot is that my family had COVID, including my young kids, and we have natural immunity and don't need the vaccine.
Yeah, that's common, and I think that's probably one of the biggest arguments that people who have COVID make, is that I've already been immunized.
I want to bring up that point right there. I think you told us months ago that even if you did have COVID, it's recommended to get the vaccine.
Absolutely, right.
So what? How would, if you had to talk to Bradley Beal? Okay, what would you tell him?
Get vaccinated.
But I mean,
your chances of it's like getting a booster shot. So so I would think it's in your best interest, especially if you're going to be around people who are unvaccinated.
Well, those same people that support natural immunity because they've already had it, their fallback are the things like it's not safe, it was rushed, there's a microchip, all of the disinformation they get from that's their backup. So one doctor said in an earlier article, his recommendation is stop looking at Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, probably a great idea.
Well, people who've had COVID have gotten it again. So it kind of blows that argument.
Yeah. Well, the when you look at the football stadiums, they have hundreds, thousands of people who wear no mask at all. So you hope that they're vaccinated, because if they're not, they're spreading it.
I went to Buffalo to see the Washington football team get slaughtered. What was it, September the 26th? And to enter the stadium, you have to show proof of being vaccinated, whether you received your first vaccine or I mean the two, being fully vaccinated. And without that, you were not allowed to enter the stadium. But even going into the stadium, I was masked up. Normally, I wear two masks. I have just a regular, what is it? I guess the surgical mask is what we normally wear. And then the cloth mask, which I normally wear, that's designed, like right now I'm wearing an Army one. So I had two masks on, but inside the stadium, actually walking up to the stadium after we got finished tailgating, walking up to the stadium in my little group, my cousins and I. And then of course we're becoming a larger group where everybody is trying to get inside the stadium. And then there's a backup because we were showing our vaccination cards and stuff. Nobody, well, I'm not going to say nobody. I mean, it was a lot of people that did not have masks on. I mean, I'm going to say 98% of the people that were there at the stadium to see the game did not have a mask on. And it's weird. I mean, it was just wild to me that, I guess a lot of people think that once they become vaccinated, they do not have to wear a mask. It's like they're immune to it. And hey, I don't need it. I'm good to go. I'm never ever going to catch COVID-19 ever again.
I had a similar experience at the Washington football team against the Chargers. And all they asked, if you had symptoms, they didn't demand vaccinations. But I mean, inside, nobody had masks on. Nobody. It was like maybe 2 or 3%. And I mean, the seats at FedEx are so close together. I mean,
yes.
If you had a game lasts, 3 hours, something like that, you sit next to somebody for 3 hours who's unvaccinated, who might have the virus.
If you think about it, when you go to those big games and you got all these people, you got a problem where wearing masks can't really be police.
You can't be really
police.
Yeah.
Oh,
police.
Yeah,
why not?
police.
Why not? It can't be.
It's kind of hard to enforce. I mean, you have,
have 98%,
a stadium
we're
of
not doing it,
40,000
right.
people. Yeah, you got a stadium of 40,000 people. It's kind of hard to make sure that 100% of those 40,000 people that are sitting in there are going to wear a mask. It's kind of hard to police that.
That's why most places require you to have proof of vaccination. I noticed that the basketball games are starting up again, and their requirement is that you have evidence of vaccination and that you wear masks.
The Caps played last night to a packed house, right?
That's right. Yeah, right.
Downtown.
I mean, I had similar, Callender, I had similar experience in regards to going to a stadium, except I'm a Ravens fan and we won, and but the same thing is like, as far as policing it, I don't see why not. They have security guards to stand over top of every section. And I mean, and you could say, and they should put signs up. If you do not wear your mask, you're liable to lose your seat license or your season tickets. My same thing is at the gym. I go to the gym and people aren't wearing masks in there, and I'll go to the front desk and I'll say, listen, it's not my job to police it, but it is yours. And I said, there's people in the back not wearing masks. And so you got to have some kind of like impetus, like you're going to get kicked out of this gym, or you're going to lose your season tickets. It can be policed a little better.
Okay, I went to 3 of my grandsons' football games. One is 9 in Prince George's to one of his little seasons, and nobody had masks on. Then I went to my son who's on junior varsity in Columbia, Maryland, at a high school. Again, no mask. Then I went to my other grandsons, and he's on the varsity, no mask, and it was the homecoming game. And I'm looking around, and I had my mask, but it's just like, you're odd, and there was no way for me to police it. And everybody, grandparents, parents, and children, nobody had masks on it. At the concession booth, they were selling pizzas and everything and candy, and no mask, no precaution, no hand sanitizer, nothing. It was
the people serving the pizza. The people serving the pizza at the concessions did not have a mask on.
Right.
Or gloves.
Wow.
And no sanitizers.
And this was in Howard County, Columbia, Maryland.
And no sanitizers?
No.
Well, Maryland has a very high vaccination rate. It's up to 90%. Montgomery County has like 90% people who at least have one shot.
Oh, we went to Uncle Julio's the other night in Annapolis, Maryland. And of course, we have our mask on and stuff. and didn't really notice it, but the hostess that seated us didn't have a mask on, but we didn't notice it until like maybe a minute after we sat down. And then when the waiter came over, you know, he's talking to us, hey, you know, good evening, how you doing? And this and that, blah, 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 blah. And then we looking at this cat, hold on, that man didn't have a mask on either. And then we're looking around, the bartender didn't have a mask on. I mean, we're just, pretty much the whole staff didn't have a mask on. It was like, yeah, well, I mean, what's going on with us? Are we the ones that, are we the outcast ones? I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
I have a question for you, Chris. How are you post vaccination?
I'm cool. I'm supposed to get my second shot today. I am afraid because I've heard a lot of stories about the second shot. Once you get that second shot, like that evening and sometimes the next day, I've been told that, man, you're gonna get sick. You're gonna have chills and all this other good stuff.
Oh, come on.
No,
So-
sir. No,
Yeah,
sir.
and
Just
that's-
take Tylenol.
And that's
Take Tylenol
listening
and take your butt to bed.
and that's listening to stories.
Well, what
Actually,
about
so
your first shot?
This is what happened.
What did you have
I
after
was-
the first shot,
Say again?
Chris? What did you have after the first shot? What kind of reaction you have after the first shot?
I was tired. I mean, it felt like I had been running a marathon and been up for like 2 days straight. I mean, that was the only symptoms that I had.
What about
had
pain in your shoulder?
where the shot was injected, yes, it was pain there. But other than that, that was it.
You didn't take any medicine though, huh?
Negative.
Okay. If you want, you could take Tylenol or which can help with the fatigue as well as the pain. But that's all you had after the first shot, because the second shot is the response is like the first shot, but maybe a little more aggravated. All I had was pain in my shoulder and a little headache, which was relieved by Tylenol.
Okay.
And then with the booster shot, it was the same way, almost the same as the second shot.
Dr. Callender,
Yes.
should you take that Tylenol immediately after, just as a
After.
precaution?
After,
Just take it anyway.
I
mean,
take it after.
Yeah,
As
because
long as
he's
you take it after.
anticipating some side effects. Would it be wise to, after getting that shot, just take a Tylenol?
That's what I did.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I did. And some people take,
Me too.
yeah.
Mhm.
But
Now,
other people want to tough it up and waiting for symptoms. But I chickened out and took it out right afterwards. At least the first 2 shots. The booster, I think I waited, and when the pain came in my shoulder, then I took the Tylenol. Extra
So I went to,
Tylenol is even better than Tylenol.
so my second shot was actually due October the 7th. I was supposed to get my second shot sometime after that. So I showed up 2 days before October the 7th because I was leaving to go to Las Vegas. And they told me that they were definitely not administering the second shot before the actual date that was given to me. Now, I asked them if I had missed that whole October the 7th date, let's just say a whole month from October the 7th, November the 7th, will I still be able to get that shot? And do I have to start all over again? They said, no, I could definitely get the second shot and I'll be done with the whole 1 shot, 2 shot deal.
That's right. That's accurate.
All right, so that's why I chose getting the shot today or tomorrow.
Yeah. That's accurate. Yeah.
Okay.
If you delay it, it's okay.
Yeah.
And remember,
Okay.
your mind is really controlling. Our minds control everything. So what you think you are, and don't expect anything. Man up, man. So
Well,
just if it happens, it happens. But you know you have endured more than this.
Yes, I have.
Uh-huh.
well,
I have.
well,
You gone through
headache.
a lot more in life than this. My lands.
headache, fatigue, and soreness and are the commonest side effects. The fever and chills a little less, but the pain in the shoulder, the headache, and the fatigue are of the commonest side effects.
Okay.
What about your kids? Are they getting vaccinated?
They've already been vaccinated. It was mandatory that CJ had gotten vaccinated before school.
Good.
And Kayla, I don't know if she was, if it was
She's got
mandatory. No, she definitely has it, but I don't know if it was mandatory for her.
Well, that's great. So you're the last one, huh?
Yeah. Last Mohican.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Coronavirus information is, let's go back at that one because I want to see what do you think? What do you think about this poll?
What I see, Dr. Callender, is everything is about the same, except for somewhat clear. Everything is roughly the same.
So what are your thoughts? Do you think that which category would you put yourself in? Would you say mostly clear, somewhat confusing, mostly confusing?
I would go with the 23%.
For me, it's clear. How many think it's somewhat confusing? Okay, let's go to the next one then. All right. Confusion about coronavirus makes you take more precautions, take fewer precautions, not sure what to do. And it's interesting because based upon what you've observed at these different events, they take fewer precautions because very few people have masks. That's interesting.
A lot of these people who are going to the games, Dr. Callender, they wear a mask when they get through the gate. But man, when they get inside there and want to start yelling about the Ravens, they take their mask off.
My experience that nobody came to the place with a mask. They just walked up. I didn't see a mask anywhere.
I'm talking about in cases where you have to come through a security desk or a registration desk or something like that.
Where you paid for it, nobody had a mask on.
Like when you go to the movies, you gotta go through this line to pay or show them your ticket and everything. But man, once you get behind that booth, you can go to the counter and get candy. You can go wherever. You can throw your mask on the floor. That's why John Buchanan finds so many masks on the ground.
Well, that's interesting. The movie I went to, everybody had on masks. You had to have masks to get into the theater.
There you go.
Afterwards, and then they would allow you to eat your food. But inside the theater, I would say that about 70% of the people, when they were not eating, had their mask on.
Mm-hmm.
That's at the theater now. And then, as I mentioned, when I went to the concert, everybody was required to have evidence of vaccinations. And then inside the area, everybody had on their masks. So it all depends on what is required. And if there's no requirement, as Carol has said, they don't wear masks.
Yeah, Doc, I just did 2 performances out of town, and in both cases, all the members of the group, the stage crew, and everybody had to show evidence of vaccination. and wear masks every place except during the performance.
Really? Except during the performance?
Yeah. Well,
That's when they need it the most.
Well, when we were on stage playing, you know.
No, I'm talking about the audience.
No. I'm just talking about the members of the group.
Oh, okay.
And it's wild. All the performances were outside.
Okay.
So nobody had masks on outside, you know, or very, very few had masks on. It was open air. Yeah.
Okay. At my church, they have a honor system. If you say you were vaccinated, they give you credit for it. And everybody inside the church wears masks.
Okay.
What do you think about the honor system? What do you think about the honor system?
Because Christians don't lie.
Any other jokes?
That's proof right there.
You can trust Christians.
Yeah, okay.
Recently, I drove to New York and back and stopped at one of the rest stops to get coffee. And I went 2 places in this rest stop to get coffee. None of the folks behind the counters had on mask, or if they had on a mask, it was not put on properly. It was below their nose or under their chin or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And there was one place, a tiny little place, and it happened to be a Dunkin' Donuts. And the person in there had on a mask and had it on properly and had on a hairnet and gloves. And that's where I got my coffee. And I thanked her and tipped her very generously just for doing that, but shared with her, you know, my appreciation for her having on a mask and wearing it properly.
You know, a lot of people wear it below their noses, which is bothersome to me because that's like not wearing a mask. But they seem like they think that that's proper, which is unfortunate. What do you think about Biden's handling? That's interesting. Most people said he did a good job. 57%. Wow, he's encouraging people. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so they think he's doing a job handling the coronavirus. Well, that may be the only.
That's almost the same breakout as the election result.
That's not what they think about anything else he's handling.
Okay, I think that's it.
Yeah, weighed down by negative environments for the economy, low marks on. What are your thoughts about the way he handled the Haitian situation?
I don't like that at all. I mean, they're letting in all the Afghans and turned away all the Haitians.
Looks like color still matters, huh?
Black and white.
Same old, same old.
What made you think they changed?
What made me think they changed? Because they had Kamala Harris as the vice president and Biden, who's a vice president under Obama. That's what made me think he'd change. But I was wrong. I mean, that's an embarrassing situation to have a situation where we are just as racially insensitive as we've always been.
Another question I have, and you can help me about this. Barack Obama, even in the Black community, they said he couldn't do anything. Of course, he couldn't do anything because he was Black. In Congress, everything he did, they voted against him and etc. So his best thing was to stay alive while he was in office and not rock the boat too much. Now, Biden is in there, and I was driving, I forgot what I was driving, but there was an overhead, put Biden out or something like that. And there's a force now about getting rid of Biden because of his policies or something. Could someone help me clarify what is this that's going against Biden?
Well, I think a lot, the Afghanistan issue, the Haitian issue, and the economy. You know, a lot of it is about the economy, and they're not satisfied with that, and so a lot of people expressed that displeasure. Of course, as far as Obama was concerned, at least he did get the almost got the universal health issue on board, so that he accomplished. He also got a lot of great things for the lesbian, gay population. He did a number of things in spite of the congressional disapproval.
McConnell and the Trumpians are determined to be against anything Biden does. That was said even before Biden was inaugurated. So a lot of what's happening is misinformation, and it's backlash and the determination of the Republicans to take power back. It's a power grab. That's what it is. I mean, that's what's going across the country and states that you can see what they're doing with voter suppression to keep us away from the ballot box.
Yep.
I mean, it's not passing his any of his initiatives, and McConnell has said, we're not passing any of his initiatives. He's made that statement publicly. So that tells you why, what's happening with Biden.
Yeah, I was down in Richmond this past weekend for a performance, and there was a Trump sign that was as big as a road poster. Not a poster, but what do you call them? The huge
billboard.
It was a billboard big as the side of a building. Trump, unbelievable.
Coming back in 2024.
And it's also don't get misled about what's going on. And I hear a lot of us talking about we don't want him. He's not doing what we put him there, blah blah blah, which is true. You know, he would not have won without us. But if we let the other people get in, what's going to happen to us? I mean, don't miss the forest for the trees. You know, I mean, this is
the devil or the deep blue sea.
Yeah, exactly.
And as far as the gasoline prices, I think Trump had a lot to do with that because they don't have a rationale why the gas prices are going up because there's plenty and etc. But the people that have been rich and got the tax cuts, they're seeing that a Congress is going to tax them more. So they will do more and put pressure on people to make you hate the Democrats so you could put them out so you could have cheaper gasoline. The food is going up, everything. And the economic, they don't understand why these things are going up. They're suing the chicken company or something. So I've heard, I got to do research on that because it's just pure gossip. But they don't know why chickens, cost so much. And there hasn't been anything happening why of course, Darryl wouldn't be interested in this, but why the meat, especially chickens, are going up, gasoline is going up, food is going up, and they don't.
And you can't find turkeys for Thanksgiving.
Right. There is no rationale for this except
But there is rationale. And I think that if you really take a look at what the economy has done as a result of COVID, and COVID, remember, a lot could have been done about it under the Trump administration, but he refused to acknowledge that it was a public health crisis. So nothing was really done. And consequently, meat packing industry has been hit really, really hard by COVID. Supply chains have been impacted. I mean, there are not enough people working in these industries to supply these things. I mean, it's just a conundrum that has, and it's like dominoes falling. And it started back when, and now Biden is getting the impact of the whole thing.
You know what? I don't understand why all these people on this call acting like they don't like no fried chicken. That's why the prices are going up, because everybody on this call likes some fried chicken.
Well, Darryl doesn't. Darryl doesn't.
No, I take that back. I love fried chicken. I just don't eat it.
And there are hundreds of supply ships off the coast of California waiting to be unloaded.
And nobody
Fried
would do it.
chicken.
Not enough people to do it.
I don't know about the fried chicken. The worst was last night on the news. They were talking about how we're hurting each other. They're locking up toothpaste and deodorant where they're going into stores and taking all these products. I guess because they're small and they sell them on the streets or whatever. But if you go into the store to get a tube of toothpaste, you have to get someone to get a key and unlock it.
Really?
That's crazy.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Depends on the neighborhood you're in.
I don't know.
No,
It's on the
really, I'm
news.
serious.
It
I'm not
appeared-
saying that to be facetious,
No.
but it's true.
Well,
If you
by them
go,
putting it on the news,
if you
it
go
appeared to
into
be-
neighborhoods of color, you will find more things locked up than if you go into McLean or Potomac or whatever. I mean, that's just a fact. The same way with advertising for alcohol, tobacco, you find more in our neighborhoods than white neighborhoods or affluent neighborhoods. Even in our publications, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, so we're targeted for a lot of things. The proximity of and the number of liquor stores in our communities. The proximity
and we do so much
to
negative
churches and
yeah,
schools.
we
I
do
mean,
so
it's
much
just a
negative
fact.
to
Yeah.
ourselves, as Dr. Callender said many times, blacks killing blacks. And this is an example because, yeah, I do believe it's the blacks that are going into these stores stealing. And then those who cannot shop outside these areas, you're stuck.
Okay, well, I think we've covered the everything that we can imagine. Darryl, any?
I forgot one thing. There's two people I contacted. Maya, she's back at work again at Howard University. And Reverend Carlos Younger, he's back at work again.
Who is that?
Carlos Younger.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes, he's
Yeah.
back at work again. Still, needs help, but he's in a rollator and not a wheelchair, and he's getting around fine. And Gloria Getty, who has been on, I told you before that she's back to work again. She's working as senior citizen.